Chapter 10. It took a long time for Link's family to settle down at the idea of him being home again. From Errol pinching his red cheeks while he tried to angle himself away from Zelda, to his mother fixing his shirt and hair, and his father excitedly bombarding him with 1,000 questions, Zelda stayed back and watched it all unfold with an endeared grin. Eventually, Errol remembered the princess's presence and took the horses to the stable on the property, while his parents took both Link and Zelda inside. The house was a small, quaint cottage, considering the vast amount of land they had. Walking through the front door led to the largest room in the house. On the left was a kitchen area, a hearth beside a small basin sink, and some counters and cabinets. It was simple, but effective. The area was lived in, with dishes in the sink, fruit stacked in the corner, fresh bread beside preserves forgotten, as if something had interrupted whoever had been making their meal earlier. There was a dining table with 4 chairs, only one with a setting still in front of it, carefully laid out as if a 4th person was always being prepared for, just in case. Thread and needles were strewn around one of the other place settings, hastily dumped from the looks of it. There was a long wooden bench against the wall with a wet shirt beside a water basin and a washboard discarded in a puddle on the floor, soaking in the wood, and a pair of ripped trousers hanging off a plaque on the wall, one that mounted a beautiful antique shield of silver and blue metal embellishments, though the trousers covered about half of it. Stairs led up to a 2nd floor, but below the stairs was an alcove with 2 doors. Leaning on one open door was a mop inside a bucket, but the other door was closed. Once they were inside, Link's mother immediately apologized.
Excuse the mess. We had an accident just before your arrival.
What happened?
His eyes followed the mess, and when no one answered, he hurried to the open door, grimaced, and spun on his heels to go to a cabinet.
I'll fix it.
His mother jogged across the room and grabbed him by the shirt, pulling him backwards with her.
No, Link, you just arrived. Sit. Tell us everything. How are you, my darling?
But
I'll get it later.
Errol pushed Link's head as she walked by him to take a seat.
I was helping before you came in. So, talk to Mom and Dad.
Resigned, he sat at the kitchen table surrounded by family while Zelda stood by the door. His mother turned around.
Goddess, please, Princess, come in. Sit. Are we meant to stand in your presence? Elwyn.
She looked to her husband, and Zelda remembered he'd worked in the castle before his injury. He shrugged and looked to Link, but Zelda stepped forward, stopping the circle of confusion before it could continue.
No, please. No need to consider any formalities while I'm here. I'm just Link's guest, not the princess.
Link grinned and wrapped his foot near the leg of the closest chair and tugged it towards him, gesturing for her to sit there, specifically. Zelda blushed as she made her way around the table, very aware of the family's collectively watchful gaze on her and Link. There was something immediately informal about him simply from being in the comfort of his own home. It was a small gesture, but she could see the flirty glint in his eyes that he only gave her when they were alone, or mostly unnoticed. This was bold. It was a conscious effort to keep her eyes averted from everyone else's, and instead, stay focused on the scratched wood of the table while Link recounted what he'd been doing for the past 2 years. Zelda listened intently, not familiar with much of his history before moving to the castle. He'd lived an exciting life of traveling, but she could hear each instance when he sweetened his experiences for their sake. One such story was a massive attack that had happened last year near Lake Hylia. A pair of Hinox had attempted to bring down the bridge watchtowers, assisted by a horde of bokoblins and moblins. Many soldiers died to bring them down, land was ravaged, and an entire settlement had been destroyed. To Zelda's surprise, Link had been there, and his version of the story for his mother had been told a little sweeter than the original.
I was sent to defend the Bridge of Hylia last year. I almost came to visit after that, but I was called back with the rest immediately to scout west.
Zelda watched his father shift uncomfortably, realizing that the former knight could either hear the lie or knew otherwise. She didn't know how long ago it had been since Elwyn had retired, but regardless, she could see him wince at a thought that crossed his mind. It was apparent that he could deduce much of what Link was keeping from his mother, if only in the understanding of the lack of detail. Zelda figured it wasn't the first time they'd kept their loved ones in the dark about their dangerous escapades around Hyrule. In the meantime, Link's mother offered Zelda every item under their roof, from cheeses to drinks to an offer to fetch their finest wine for her. And when Zelda declined, she simply grabbed all the food she could scrounge together, plating it while he spoke, and placing it on the table between Link and Zelda for them to munch on, apologizing once again for the state of the house and the lack of preparation for their visit. At first, Zelda declined the food, not wanting to waste their meal on her, but after a while, the smell was too enticing, and Link's eagerness to dig in while he spoke emboldened her. When Link got to the part of his story where he became one of Zelda's guards during rotation, she was embarrassed to realize just how long he'd been working for her while she hadn't noticed him. Everyone's proud attention shimmered while Link talked about the piece of the castle garden patrols he had most often, and of early morning training sessions with Zelda. The conversation turned to her, politely asking how everything was going with that.
I can knock Link off his feet on a good day. Most of the time he's stubborn as an ox and won't budge.
I go easy on you some days, Princess. You could never really sweep me off my feet.
Zelda laughed, hiding her mouth and cheeks under her hand.
Next time, Link. Next time.
He scoffed and playfully kicked her chair. Link's family watched in a mix of shock and horror at their casual banter before they both smiled. Link recanted with sincerity, bragging to his family how quickly she picked things up, which only made her more red. After a while, Errol stood and stretched.
It's getting late. I have to go if I want to eat.
She grabbed a bow off the wall and a quiver that rested on the floor beside it.
Any requests, Princess?
No,
Huh?
Errol. We can afford to splurge one night. Just go buy a turkey in town.
Reyna.
Link's father suddenly stood.
Let her go if she wants. Link, come with me for a bit.
Elwyn went to pat Zelda on the shoulder before remembering who she was and bowed instead.
Make yourself at home, Princess.
He pulled Link into the room with the mop in one hand and Link's shirt in the other, and left Zelda with Errol and their mother. Zelda watched curiously, but Errol turned to her mother with a pleading expression and dropped her voice to a whisper.
If Link finds out, he'll send his pay this way again. We can't do that. Not again. I can take care of us this time. I'll catch the turkey and be back.
Reyna smoothed her dress and glanced at the door her husband and son had gone through before nodding in agreement. Then they both turned to Zelda. A newfound sincerity had appeared in Errol's eyes.
Please, don't tell Link. He doesn't need to know, and telling him would only make him worry.
Is there anything I can do to help? I have rupees.
No. Thank you, Princess. But we'll manage. It's not that bad. It was just a bad harvest year, and we're paying for that. That's all.
Errol toyed with her bowstring.
Do you want to come hunt with me, Princess? You said you were training. Can you shoot?
Smiling, Zelda nodded.
I can, and I'd love to go with you. I'm not sure how well I can shoot a moving target, but I used to shoot through rings each year at the Colosseum ceremonial opening events before the calamity was expected.
Ugh, I always wanted to go to that.
Zelda stood quickly, but then hesitated. The village was warded, which is why Link felt comfortable being her only guard. The forest had no protection.
But, Link,
She pointed to the open doorway and glanced at Reyna.
may I go in that room to see him?
Yes, of course, Princess.
Zelda stepped around a mop before emerging in a decent-sized bedroom. Though, unlike most bedrooms, the floor was littered with wood shavings, which Link sat amongst, cross-legged as he examined a plank. Elwyn was sitting on the bed with his crutch beside him.
Hey, Safety Master.
Zelda grinned when Link looked up immediately, as if that were his actual title.
How safe is it to go into the forest to hunt with your sister?
Link set the plank down and leaned on his knee as he thought.
She is a good fighter, but if the Yiga were to attack, she couldn't take them all, not even if I came with you. She's a hunter, not a trained soldier. I'd rather you stay within the protection of the wards, Majesty.
She hated when he punctuated his sentences with a grand title. Princess was practically her name, but Majesty, Highness, Your Grace, those were his subtle reminders of who she was and why she couldn't be normal. Admittedly disappointed, but not surprised, she looked over her shoulder to glance at Errol, who was listening in.
Okay, I'll be back soon then. Unless my lack of training gets me killed.
The sing-song voice was for Link's benefit before leaving with the soft thud of the door behind her. Zelda looked back at Link and sighed.
I'm sorry, Princess.
I know.
Her eyes drifted over the mess.
What are you doing, if I may ask?
Link looked at his father first, who nodded before he spoke.
My father's railing support broke. Apparently he fell getting out of bed when it did. Just trying to make sure this replacement is stronger.
You can't stop working, can you?
She looked at the wall with the splintered wood still attached. She narrowed her eyes at the end that had been nailed in without any alterations to the plank size or shape, which would leave it with hardly any support for weight-bearing.
He's always worked, Princess.
He gave a distant laugh at a silent memory. Absently, he rubbed at his thigh.
When I was injured, he doubled down on training and working, but he just can't stop.
Oh, don't I know it? Your son has me up at the crack of dawn just to train.
Link, you make the Princess of Hyrule wake up to train with you?
Her father, the king, does. Not me. I just show up.
Zelda knelt in front of Link, brushing a wood chip off her knee before settling down comfortably. Holding out her hand, Link automatically passed the long plank to her.
Give me your knife and then get that old piece off of there. Do you have another replacement plank as well?
Yes, I can get it. Same width and length?
Zelda glanced at Link first as he handed her his pocket knife. He didn't seem concerned with his father moving after the fall, so she didn't let it bother her either.
To about where Link's waist is in height. Width can be the same.
When his father was gone, Link watched Zelda notch 2 marks in the wood with the knife.
It took you less than a day to begin a project. And you all call me a workaholic.
I'm not allowed near the Guardians or Sheikah Tech, but I'll be damned if you try to keep me from an easy fix like this on top of everything else. I simply don't have the tools, but if you cut the wood to my specifications and then add the additional plank in the center, it will take more of your father's weight without bending the board, so the give won't be quite severe enough to splinter the wood. Plus, the additional handle-like structures I'm marking for you are going to make the whole thing more stable. You're not going to have to worry about... What?
Zelda stopped and turned, smirking. Link's eyes were gentle on hers while he watched with keen interest.
I don't get to see you on your turf often. This is where you thrive.
She bit her cheek to try to keep the red off her face, but she couldn't help but meet his soft stare.
What made you do this?
He gestured around, but she already knew what he meant. Zelda shrugged, returning her attention to her work.
I wanted to thank you. For everything.
I'd have been content with just those 2 words, you know.
I wouldn't. It's not sufficient to me. You're worth more than 2 words.
Link swallowed, loudly.
I appreciate that.
There was a brief silence before Zelda lowered her voice.
May I ask what happened to your father? Was it something I should know not to mention?
No, he doesn't mind talking about it. He was in a company of about 20 when there was a Yiga attack. 13 died. 5 were injured, including my father.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Why? You didn't attack him.
It's a habit. I'm sorry for him.
He's pretty content. Misses fighting, but likes the new life he has too.
Zelda fidgeted, looking at the door, waiting for Elwyn to return.
I don't know what other life I'd be able to have if something happened to me. They'd still throw me into springs and temples.
Don't go there, Princess. Nothing will happen to you.
His whole focus was on Zelda. She would be lying if she tried to pretend his fierce attention didn't make her feel both light-hearted like a young girl and safe, guarded by her vigilant protector.
13 trained soldiers dead. I'd never stand a chance.
Link leaned forward to bridge the gap between them and tucked a perfectly fine strand of hair away from her face. The simple gesture had Zelda frozen in place and dumbstruck in shock. But he continued as if he hadn't even noticed he'd done it.
This is why I say you have to run as your first line of defense. 13 highly trained warriors died that day. No matter how much training you and I do, or if I'd given you a sword on day 1, you'd still be dead if you'd been with them that day. You have to run.
If the goddess wants me to die fighting the calamity or its harbingers, then so be it. But goddess, please let me access these powers first.
You will.
Her eyes snapped up to him, and she could only imagine how much hers were burning with rage while his were earnest and calm.
You can say that. You're already so talented. If the Yiga come at you, you can fight them off. What can I do but run or die? It's pathetic.
Growling, Link leaned forward again, but it wasn't for a gentle touch.
I could die too. I am not immortal. So don't pretend I am anything other than human. But Princess, you are the most devoted person I've ever met. You're going to figure this out.
It's that simple, isn't it? You're just perfect, aren't you? It's all easy for you.
Zelda was half ready to cry in frustration and delayed fear. She stood and began to pace.
Far from it. I trained, Princess. I trained since I was a child. I'm not perfect.
You are. You say all the right things. You can survive. You're second only to the chosen heroes of legend in terms of skill, and you're probably just as faithful to the goddess, while I'm just her wretched puppet.
Link's voice rose as he followed her around the room.
I gave up my whole life to be where I am. I followed my father and brother into battle when I was 10. I trained from the day I could hold a sword. I gave up the chance to have a family because I wanted to be a knight of Hyrule, traveling the kingdom to keep it safe. I gave up friends so I could be available all the time at the palace. I gave up myself so I could become the soldier I needed to be. I am not perfect, Princess, and I have never claimed to be. The only difference between you and I is that I am not blaming the goddess for my hard times.
Zelda took a step closer to him.
I could have you executed for that. You just insulted a high priestess of Hyrule and her relationship with the goddess.
Go ahead and kill me then. Because I know you better than you think I do.
Oh, enlighten me, Master Link.
You're a good person with all the willpower in the world. You're pure-hearted with your actions, and you want the best for everyone, but you've got the confidence of an ant in a stampede. You trust others, you trust me, but you don't trust yourself. You came in here with confidence. You just gave us a whole construction plan after looking around for a few seconds. But when you fight, when you pray, you shrink. You wait. What is someone going to tell you to do? You're a princess.
I have no power. I'm a princess by title, but I even had to ask you for permission, which was denied, to leave Hateno today. I'm not a princess in terms of the power you think one has to simply command the goddess to give me her strength.
You're doing it again. I'm so sick of it, Princess. You do it in training. You do it here. You do it everywhere.
Zelda was ready to pull out her hair, forgetting her surroundings entirely, nearly tripping over the plank, ignoring that she had seen both of his parents in the doorway, which was currently clear.
It's been years, Link. Think of how long you've been training to fight, and all the skills you have to show for it. I have nothing. I don't know why the Yiga even want me. But if they got a hold of me, I'm dead, and the calamity returns, and it's all because I failed to access the goddess's power.
Have you ever stopped to think that the calamity didn't arrive on time not because of the goddess, but because of you? That you held it back and still have been keeping it at bay to find us the time we need to get an army, a champion, powers, whatever? Have you never even considered that the world is alive because of you? Because of your prayers, your strength, I don't know, all of it? Maybe you're using your powers and you don't even know.
Freezing, Zelda's comeback died on her lips. Instead, she sagged.
Is it so wrong to be afraid?
Being afraid is smart. Overcoming fear regardless of it is better. We are taught that early in training. I should have told you when we started. You can be afraid of failing. You can be afraid of the Yiga. Or of death. Or you can be afraid of dying when a mango falls on your head. Fear is healthy. Cowardice is what hurts you. And you've never been a coward, Princess.
Steadying her breathing, she laughed to herself, letting all her pent-up energy out in the motion.
You're certainly no coward, speaking to me this way.
He smiled, and it brought a genuine one out in Zelda as well.
We are friends, aren't we? Friends don't need to tiptoe around each other. And I just want the best for you. I want you to be safe. To feel safe. But you're the princess, and I don't mean to insult you in any way. My apologies, Majesty.
Stop.
She pulled him into a hug that was still somewhat awkward, but far more relaxed than they had been. Link's hands knew where to go now, and Zelda didn't hesitate to lean into him, her head resting against his.
I can't afford to trust anyone else when Hyrule is at stake. But I trust you.
His fingers tensed, and she could feel his arms strain to restrain himself from tugging her closer. This task had always been hers. Fighting the calamity had been her job. Urbosa had comforted her at times, trying to say she understood, but Urbosa had full control of Naboris, and Zelda couldn't even get the goddess to hear her. It felt good to have someone entirely on her side the way Link was. He had no divine beast, no great responsibility other than being a soldier. He was there in a way Rivali never could be, and present in a way Mipha wasn't able.
Link?
She said his name again, using his name as a way of grounding herself in Hateno. He hummed his attention, and her fingers nervously tightened on the back of his shirt.
When we return, will you teach me to defend against the Yiga's weapons?
Yes.
She expected some resistance, some reminder that she wasn't physically strong enough, or that the Yiga were going to win, or even that she should run, but he was quick and assured. This wasn't something to pacify her.
Link?
This time, she felt him chuckle, and he did hold her tighter.
Yes, Princess?
Thank you for believing I'll awaken the power. One of us should believe it.
Finally, he pulled away.
I'll always believe in you, Princess.
Unsure what else to do, Zelda grabbed the long piece of wood and placed it into his hands.
I made the marks. You can get that cut. I can help with assembly if you'd like.
I'd like that very much, Princess.
Her cheeks warmed because, damn him, he made everything sound either childishly hopeful or devilishly flirtatious, and she was sincerely starting to enjoy the latter a bit too much. Errol returned with a freshly caught turkey an hour later, just as Link, Zelda, and Elwyn finished fixing the rail. Zelda watched as the bird was made ready until spice after spice decorated it in oranges and greens. But to her surprise, Reyna wasn't the only one in the kitchen. Link was beside his mother, laughing as they passed seasoning back and forth or avoided the lick of flames from their hearth as they moved things around. Eventually, Link beckoned Zelda towards him and his mother.
Come on.
I don't want to mess it up and poison everyone.
You're not gonna poison anyone. My stomach is too strong to be poisoned, and this is my family you're talking to. They have just as strong of stomachs as I do.
The soft smile on his face had her wrapped in an impossible inability to decline. Cooking with Reyna and Link was more of a social activity than anything she actually assisted with. She was quite good at passing them things, but other than that, she stepped back and refused to ruin their meal with any attempts at cooking, even with Link's urging. And she most certainly didn't miss the casual ease that he had as his hand rested on her back when he scooted by her, lingering far too long. Zelda longed to reach behind her to keep it there, but he did move away, leaving her cold and disappointed. Link was happy here. He was comfortable, at the very least. She could imagine him living in a little cottage in Hateno. She could imagine herself somewhere like this. Zelda helped, by her own insistence, set the table, placing plates in front of each seat, relentlessly rearranging the order of the silverware without remembering how it was meant to align.
It's fine. We really don't have an order.
Oh,
Upon hearing that, she was embarrassed at how long she'd spent trying to figure that one out, and when they all sat down, Zelda watched Link keenly to see if there was some decorum she was unfamiliar with before she did anything else wrong.
Thank you for all your help, Princess.
Reyna smiled wide in the way Zelda always imagined her own mother would have done.
I'm sorry I couldn't do more.
Reyna simply waved it off. Suddenly, Errol sat forward in her chair.
So, are you going to look around the village while you're here? Or are you keeping your presence a secret and staying in the cottage?
I think people are likely to ask questions if I wander about. Though I'd like to see the town, I don't know if that's a possibility, even if I pass myself off as Link's.
Link set his fork down and stared at her mischievously when she didn't finish her sentence.
My
friend. What else?
She grinned at him and took a bite of her food.
Nothing, Princess.
There was a stretched silence after that, one mixed with confusion and suspicion from the prying eyes of his family, one that lasted until plates were cleared and dropped into the sink basin. Zelda again demanded that she be allowed to help clean up, even as everyone else began to disperse. Reyna stayed with her, checking on her progress every now and then, but otherwise letting her do however much she wanted to. And as the table was wiped and everything had been put away, Zelda was still at the sink. Link leaned against the counter beside her, and she realized he'd changed clothes, so he wore something closer to what she'd seen him sleep in. He looked far, far too comfortable, and that, in turn, made Zelda's face burn and her mind race. He was there in silence, watching her for several long moments before finally grabbing the dish from her hand.
It's clean, Princess. Please, you're going to scrub it out of existence.
I've never done dishes. I honestly wasn't sure.
He smirked.
It looks great. I've never seen it shine so brilliantly.
Scoffing, Zelda went to pick up the last plate, but Link caught her wrist.
Wait. Errol wants to see you. She heard you didn't bring clothes and says she has something. Why don't you go see her? Down the hall to the left.
Zelda's eyes were stuck on his hand, finding it harder to breathe. Hardly their first touch, something about spending the day in this setting as opposed to the castle made the gesture feel decidedly more intimate. And when she looked at his eyes, she could see he felt it too.
Okay.
She dropped the plate into Link's hand and disappeared around the corner, and immediately Reyna rounded on Link.
What in Hyrule is going on, Link?
What?
You and Princess Zelda. I'm getting older, but I'm not blind. I know what flirting is.
Mom.
No. Link, what are you doing?
We're friends. That's all, Mom.
His mother sat down a dish rag and cupped Link's cheek.
I want you to find happiness. More than anything. I want you to have your best life in whatever way you see fit. But I don't want it to be at the extent of your own heart. It will break, Link, if you follow this through any further.
I don't know what you mean.
And he found himself in the tight arms of his mother. For a long time, he simply melted into the comforting embrace, letting her warmth soothe him from an anxiety he'd pushed so far down that letting it show had become a hassle in itself.
I don't know what to do.
He finally admitted it, like the truth had been crushed out of him. He dropped further into her arms, still relearning how to hug.
Nothing, my sweet boy. Nothing today, nothing tomorrow. It's too big of a situation to rush into a decision. She's not from Hateno. She's not even from Castletown. She's the princess of Hyrule. Your life is in danger by handing your heart to someone who cannot promise the same, even if she wants to someday. Take slow, cautious steps. Make no hasty decisions.
I know.
And if this is the risk you want to take, you have us behind you. But you have to be sure, beyond a doubt.
I know.
Reyna smiled, running her hand along his cheek again.
You tell me anything you want about this tomorrow. I'll listen. I'll talk it through with you. Whatever you need of me, Link. We'll go into the field so she's not in the next room. Okay?
Casting a wary glance over his shoulder, Link nodded.
She's just incredible.
She's very pretty, too.
Reyna grabbed Link's arm as she ushered him towards his room.
Stop. Besides, she's beautiful, not just pretty. Gorgeous.
Reyna bit her lip and shook her head, stifling a chuckle.
Oh, my sweet one. We're definitely going to need to have a good talk tomorrow. But for tonight, just go to sleep. It's been a long day, and there are so many stories I still want to hear from you. So rest up.
When Zelda and Errol emerged, Zelda was fixing a tie in her pants that had been knotted.
Your sister and I are very similar in size. I should send some of my things to you, if you ever want a ball gown.
Can I hunt in it?
Well, why not?
Zelda was in clothes similar to what she trained in, but her hair was down and flowing and loose, and her arms were crossed over her chest as she shuffled in the comfortable clothes she'd been given. Errol snorted and bid everyone a good night before heading back into her room. Link dared a glance at his mother, who was watching from the corner of her eye with feigned disinterest in another task. He tried not to look at Zelda, at how different a simple pair of clothes could make someone, how her comfort in his presence made him feel things for no real reason. She hadn't done anything, but still, it did. And he loved the internal tides he rode as he fought with the warring excitement of reveling in it and the nervous need to push it all away.
I'll, sleep out here. You can take my room.
Zelda cocked an eyebrow.
No, this is your house, your room. This is how I didn't want to ruin your vacation.
You're not sleeping out here. What if something happened?
Like what? A goat could break in? Nothing will happen to me.
Exactly. Because you're taking my room.
Zelda's fingers tensed in frustration.
Get in your room, Link. You're taking your bed.
No, you get in my...
He let that one trail off, and they both giggled with nervous laughter. He looked to his mother again, and can see her innocently judgmental face as she tidied something else up, but he turned back to Zelda.
I'll sleep in the room, but you get the bed.
Where in the room will you be if not the bed?
I don't know. On the floor? Against the wall?
That sounds horrible. Worse than your awful mattress in the barracks.
I'll lean against the bed, okay? Is that a deal?
Begrudgingly, Zelda nodded, her arms still crossed over her chest. Link opened his door and turned to where his mother was still watching, shooting her a knowing look. She rolled her eyes, but smiled when she looked back at him, clearly pleased just with his presence.
I'll be here in the morning, Mom.
Thank the goddess.
Link nodded and followed Zelda inside. Zelda grinned excitedly as she looked around.
Well, this is a step up from the barracks.
Link's old room was still available, though much of it had become cluttered from years of disuse. It was a storage room, and earlier, Link had shoved most of it against the walls and away from the bed.
Not by much.
It was still small, but at least the mattress was comfortable, and at least he didn't have to share.
I think it's cozy.
She looked around with a scrutinizing expression, taking it all in.
Cluttered, admittedly, but cozy all the same.
Her eyes zeroed in on something that sat on his old dresser, and she grabbed it before he could stop her. She held a piece of wood, intricately carved and shaped like a knight, and then painted over.
What's this?
A hobby.
Her eyes shone.
You made this?
I'm good with my hands.
He closed his eyes so he wouldn't accidentally look her over after that comment. He didn't need to imply any more than today had already done, but he was pleased to see that she either ignored the remark out of pity or missed it from her distraction.
It's incredible. Would you make something for me? Or are you too busy training every day as it is?
As if he hadn't heard her right, he made a face and shook his head.
You want me to make you something?
Only if you have time. Crafter's choice.
Fighting the prideful grin that was desperately trying to overtake his face, he cleared his throat and nodded.
Yeah. Yeah, I can make you something.
I can pay.
You're not paying me. It'll be my gift to you.
She set the knight down, crossed her arms, and made her way across the room to look at a pile of papers that were scattered around the floor, fidgeting, looking around, bounding with energy.
Princess? You seem different tonight. Is this how awake you are every night?
Beaming, she stood up and took in her surroundings once again.
No. Would you believe me if I told you that I've never been in someone else's room outside of the castle? Not the house at night either. Just you. Your room in the barracks, and now here.
I would believe that.
He watched her peek through his closet, which had mostly been overtaken by his family's clothes.
Whenever I stay out with guards, it's always at an inn or a stable. And something about a house at night just feels so much more sincere. Your house is so lived in. You've seen my rooms. They're so dull, perfect, and clean. You'd think they were on constant display.
She sat on his bed, testing it with a pleased face.
And your family is incredible. You should talk about them more, if you want.
He froze, watching her for a moment before he was able to continue.
I want to, but talking about them too often, it makes me want to return home. And I don't want to get too lost in the familiarity of this place by making frequent trips.
Zelda pulled her legs up and wrapped her arms around them.
Is there anything I can do? You've helped me train. The least I can do is have your family brought up to the castle more often.
Kneeling down beside the foot of the bed where he intended to stay for the night, Link watched Zelda's expression with careful consideration. There were a few minute changes as he moved, and he wanted to know what it meant.
Thank you. But it's okay. I don't want to become too homesick. It's easier to ignore after a while.
They stared at each other in a tense silence. Something was unsaid, and they were both listening too hard. But Zelda sighed after a while, giving up in her exhaustion.
I wish you would just take the bed, Link. It's yours.
Nope. Tonight, it's yours.
She flipped herself onto her stomach to face him, and he struggled to swallow. And to keep his eyes on hers. And to breathe, because goddess, she'd just gotten close to him. Not that they hadn't been closer, but there was something far more personal about being in a bedroom at night while getting ready for bed than in a bedroom at night while training to fight Yiga.
I could make it a command.
It was an empty threat, shown by her affectionate smile, though her voice had dropped to a hushed whisper that had Link shuddering.
You wouldn't be allowed to say no.
He scoffed, but it was half-hearted as he stared at every motion her lips made. There was no way he was being subtle.
I don't mind being commanded by you, Princess, but not about this. Watch me defy you. You're getting that bed, no matter what.
You think you can give me orders now?
She moved closer to him while in the process of teasing him.
We're back on my turf, remember?
Zelda grinned and let that one go with a dismissive shrug. She leaned against her arm, hiding her perfectly comfortable smile against her skin. Link surprised himself when he realized he'd gone clammy and nervous under the attention of her unyielding green eyes.
What?
He rested his right arm against the bed and leaned on it, just slightly closer to Zelda, but close enough that he could feel it. She shook her head again, but didn't look away.
Nothing.
His eyes softened, and his lips tipped up just enough not to betray the depth of what he was feeling in that moment. Fingers tightened in the sheets, and he only prayed she wouldn't notice. Sure, he had a crush on her. He knew that. He'd felt it physically, and he knew it emotionally. He'd reasoned that one out to their closeness from training. But this was getting worse, becoming something more. Something he was losing control over, like a fire that was spreading, and he was the wood. For all his attempts to stop it, to stop himself and to keep it a strict friendship, his subconscious mind had other plans. His crush had become full-blown attraction, and then to being downright smitten at the sight of the Princess of Hyrule. He was a puddle with her eyes on him, and he'd gladly melt if it meant she'd look a little longer. She was the sun, and he was ice, and soon he was going to simply give in and let her burn him. Coil had warned him. His mother had too. But no, Link had to go and find himself head over heels for the one person in the entire kingdom he was forbidden to show any romantic affection to. He didn't think this was love. How could it be when they weren't even courting? It had to be something else. But the word for it was beyond him. All he knew was the feeling of sinking down to the bottom of the ocean with a weight on his leg. It was slow, torturous, and inevitable. But unlike that scenario, he wanted this. He wanted this so badly, even though every conscious part of his mind warned him not to. She was the princess. Don't. She held her hand out towards him and raised her eyebrow questioningly.
May I?
He didn't know what she wanted to do, but hell if he cared. She could do anything to him in that moment, and he'd have agreed. He nodded, maybe a little too eagerly, before feeling her fingers run through his hair. With her first stroke, his eyes widened, unaware that's what she was going to do. With the second, she added a light pressure of nails to his scalp, and he found his head leaning towards her. And the third time, a soft noise escaped from his throat in utter contentment at the sensation. At that realization, he cleared his throat and tried to sit up, to get off the floor and away from her, but Zelda's hand stopped him.
Just go to sleep, Link. I like playing with your hair.
I have long hair.
That was stupid, but no other words had come to mind. But she didn't seem to care, smiling and running her hand through again as his eyes fluttered shut, her command taking root in his subconscious.
Good night, Link. Thank you for the bed, and for letting me stay.
Anytime, Princess.
Link woke up at some point while it was still pitch dark out. Waking up throughout the night was a terrible habit of his that he longed to break someday in favor of a full night's sleep. His eyes barely slid open, soon to fall right back to sleep. Except that he could feel something against his cheek. Humming out a confused noise, he reached up to push it off, but was met with Zelda's limp wrist. She twitched when he grabbed her, and he was immediately alert and awake. Had she fallen asleep stroking his hair? His face? Had he missed that?
Princess?
Goddess help him, but he ran his knuckle gently over her skin to try to rouse her attention, but she did nothing but sleep through it. He stood up, stretched, and stared down at Zelda. She looked peaceful, but cold, like he'd been. She was curled up into herself, her free hand tucked under her armpit. She looked like she might have even thrashed a little bit, given the wild state of her hair, but since her hand was still near him, he doubted that she'd fallen into a fitful night.
Princess?
This time, he shook her shoulder with a little more gusto, but she barely stirred, again. With a sigh, he slid his arms under her and untucked the blanket and sheet from the bottom of the bed before pulling them over her, trying hard not to jostle her when he lifted the mattress to get them unstuck. She barely noticed, though her head did turn from left to right. He grabbed the blanket and set himself back on the floor, pulling it up to his chin, and he rested his face next to her hand, close to what she'd been doing before, but not quite there. As he looked over her, she loosened a bit, her hand snaking out from her armpit to grab the blanket. Her curled legs straightened, and the hint of a smile on her lips, which made all the difference.
Dap dap.
Well...
Dap.
Eh. Eh. Wait.
Dap dap. Dap dap dap. Dap dap.
Eh.
Dap dap. Dab, 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 dab. Dab, dab.